when he was on the cross after being tortured and beat and mocked and ridiculed and spit on and hair pulled out and hated. And Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I would argue that that is being hurt and regulated at the same time. Because that wouldn't be my thoughts. Which is why I'm not Jesus. I would say, Father, smoke all these jokers with a lightning bolt and a army of bad to the bone angels or something like that. So that's why I'm still pursuing emotional health and emotional intelligence and spiritual health and spiritual fitness and spiritual maturity and emotional maturity, because I would have a very different prayer.
Welcome to the EQ Gangster podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you.
EQ Gangsters, what's up? What's up? Okay, this episode is bad to the bone, and I got the thought from a guy named Tim Ross on @UpsetTheGram on Instagram. Tim Ross on @UpsetTheGram on Instagram. He is fire. He's got phenomenal insights, wisdom, content, and I don't know him, so I can't, I don't know him personally. I just know that the content he puts out is incredibly iron sharpening. I am thankful for rain and storms, thunder, lightning, clouds, weather, temperature, coolness, heat, birds chirping, tree leaves, trees, branches, different size branches, different types of trees, different types of leaves, pine trees. I love the way pine trees smell. Thankful for God's grace, the fruit of the Spirit that I am still pursuing from Galatians 5:22-23. Still, yes, I'm thankful for learning, gyms, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, struggle, adversity, challenges, learning, emotions, vehicles, bicycles, shoes, socks, nice clothes, dress clothes, shorts, t-shirts, Robert Graham shirts, homies, smiles, teeth, dentists, medical professionals, and masters of their crafts in whatever that may be. This episode is, you can be hurt and regulated. So again, that idea I got from Tim Ross. He has a clip on IG that he talks about that, and I'm going to discuss it, but I'm going to add some more color to it from my perspective. So Tim brought up a couple great examples of the concept of being hurt and being emotionally regulated at the same time. I'm going to throw in some of my own examples. He threw in, this weekend is Resurrection Weekend, where for people who love Jesus and Christians, was crucified, and then 3 days later, he rose again on the third day. And I've actually been to Golgotha, little side note here. which is actually the tattoo on my right hand, is the top half of my tattoo. For those of y'all that are on YouTube, the top half of the tattoo on my right hand is Golgotha, which it actually looks like a skull, which is what Golgotha means, is hill of the skull. And it actually looks like that. I've actually seen it in person in Israel. And the bottom half of my tattoo, the nose of the skull, is the cave where Jesus was resurrected. And it reminds me of my trip to when I went to Israel. And you can be hurt and regulated. Jesus was beat, tortured, whipped, crown of thorns, and like I've seen, like, I've seen it in the movies, the crown of thorns, but what historians show as a crown of thorns is like an actual helmet of thorns. In the movies, it's like a bandana of thorns. Historians say when they've built it or whatever, it's an actual helmet of thorns that you literally, the entire thing goes, which, again, I can't even imagine. And that's just a crown of thorns, right? That's not carrying a 300-pound cross. That's not getting whipped 39 times with the cat of nine tails. And anyway, it was brutal, right? So going through all that, so Jesus went through all that, and when he was on the cross, after being tortured and beat and mocked and ridiculed and spit on and hair pulled out and hated, and Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." I would argue that is being hurt and regulated at the same time. Because that wouldn't be my thoughts. Which is why I'm not Jesus. I would say, Father, smoke all these jokers with a lightning bolt and a army of bad to the bone angels or something like that. So what happened? That's why I'm still pursuing emotional health and emotional intelligence and spiritual health and spiritual fitness and spiritual maturity and emotional maturity, because I would have a very different prayer. So that was one example that Tim Ross gave. You can be hurt and regulated at the same time. Stephen, Acts chapter 5 or Acts chapter 6. That story is also mind-boggling, the story of Stephen. He was literally stoned, not Colorado stoned or Snoop Dogg stoned. He was put out 25 feet, 20 feet, 10 feet, 10 to 20 feet away from an angry mob of 25, 50, 100 angry people that literally pitched rocks, not pebbles, rocks, stones, and whipped it at them. Who's the guy? Ohtani? Who's the big? Is he a New York Jets guy? I mean, New York Jets, New York Giants guy. Sorry, baseball fans, I'm totally screwing this up. He's Ohtani, I think he's a famous pitcher. I'm hoping I'm getting that name right. Man, all you sports fans are probably like, dude, you're hurt and not regulated right now because I'm messing this up. They no kidding, Major League Baseball pitched these big stones, these big rocks at Stephen. Imagine dying that way. like dying by getting stoned to death by, I mean, that's also no joke. And Stephen said, he may have said the same thing. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Anyway, Stephen prayed for them while he was getting stoned. So I would also argue that's an example of being hurt and regulated at the same time, which is, again, mind-boggling. Okay. So you can go through a painful experience and keep the perspective in mind that you can learn and grow from it also. And I have my notes down in front of me. So if you see me looking down on my YouTube, folks, that's what I'm doing. It can be a painful, uncomfortable, discouraging, disappointing, sad, hurtful experience and a learning and growth opportunity at the same time. It can be both and not either or. Sometimes, I know for me, I create a narrative that it's either this or it's that. Two things can be true at the same time. Three things can be true at the same time. It can be hurtful and painful and disappointing and discouraging and disheartening and frustrating and upsetting and feeling of rejection and a learning opportunity and a growing opportunity and a strengthening opportunity and a resilience building opportunity and a maturity building opportunity at the same time. James chapter 1, verses 2 through 12. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. That's not all the way through 12, obviously. That's the first couple verses. So that's an example of being hurt and regulated at the same time. Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds. Again, I'm not saying I do this, y'all, okay? So this is definitely an area that I'm still working on, and I'll give you another example. Well, I've had a couple very, very challenging conversations recently, and I was feeling nervous and anxious and uncertain, and I was feeling trepidation and concern and frustration and upset and discouragement and disappointment all at once. So much so that my breathing started to pick up and my heart rate started to pick up. I could feel myself in the moment getting a little bit more spun up, especially when someone else in the room went to a 10. I was slowly going from a 2 to a 3 to a 4. Now, thankfully, I didn't go beyond a 4, but I felt it. I felt my nervous system was slowly becoming dysregulated. There was someone else whose nervous system got completely dysregulated. And that which also affected and impacted me to a degree, which is, again, because when that person went to an emotional 10 and went completely dysregulated, the fact that it did affect me to a degree let me know that I still have work to do. In a perfect situation, it doesn't matter what anybody's emotional state is around me, and it's not going to affect me if I have full emotional self-awareness and emotional control and regulation. That wasn't the case. That I still have work to do. And obviously I still have work to do. So, and again, thankfully, I didn't go beyond a 4, so I was able to have enough emotional awareness and emotional control to not go beyond a 4, I still want to get to where I don't get beyond a 1 or a 2. And I'm still working on it. Okay, another idea is doing emotional forecasting, which I've talked about in many episodes, before the difficult conversation begins. So to do some emotional prep work. The more emotional prep work you can do before a difficult conversation, the better you will be able to be aware of and regulate the emotions that pop during that conversation based on my experience, which is what I call, again, emotional forecasting or emotional prep work. And then I've got a whole process for that. And here's the quick process is before, and now I have not been able to do emotional prep work with every difficult conversation that has happened. Sometimes they happen and I hadn't prepared for it, which anyway, so I'll get to some more of those points in a second. The emotional prep work is doing emotional forecasting, which means to me, write down the emotions that you are most likely going to feel or experience during that difficult conversation. And allow yourself to feel those emotions before the conversation happens. Hours before, a day before, a couple of days before, however soon you know it's going to happen, you're going to have this conversation. Start doing these emotional battle drills, this emotional prep work. Right, like shooting drills, right? If you're a concealed carry person and you carry a weapon, I don't recommend somebody conceal carries a weapon if they don't train with that weapon. You will not be. Our default performance and behavior defaults to the level of our training. So if you've never trained with the weapon that you carry around, really good chance you're not going to be effective with that weapon. And worst case, you're going to be dangerous with that weapon, even though you're meaning and intending to do good stuff. So train and prepare emotionally before walking into a difficult conversation. So allow yourself to feel those emotions. And then write down what are the emotions you want to feel during that difficult conversation. And then write down what behaviors do you want to exhibit during that difficult conversation or that event or that mission. So it can be a difficult conversation, it can be a mission, it can be a project, a task, whatever where it could be emotional. Write down the emotions you want to have and the behaviors you want to have. So it's you're doing actual and desired. So you write down the actual emotions and behaviors you're more than likely, you have had a tendency to feel or experience, and then write down the emotions and behaviors that you want to have. Okay, another great technique for regulation during hurt or painful situations, difficult situations, breath work, breathing, control, be aware of your breathing in those difficult conversations. Okay, this is another great one. What makes someone able to be hurt and regulate at the same time? What makes this possible is staying in the emotional, spiritual, social, mental, physical gym. When you stay ready, you never have to get ready. If you stay ready, you never have to get ready. Always be working out physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially. Preparation time is never wasted time. So why would we stay in all those different gyms, right? Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, socially. So that we can be regulated while we are going through experiencing pain, discomfort, hurt. Jiu-jitsu, just a couple weeks ago, I rolled with 3 black belts. All 3 black belts, let's see, one of the 3 tapped me once. All 3 of them dominated me. Because I have been going to the jiu-jitsu gym for 8 years, I was able to stay regulated through that adversity. Being dominated, they dominated me the entire time. I rolled with all three of them, not at the same time. Each one dominated me. And I was able to stay emotionally regulated the entire time because I have been consistently going to the jiu-jitsu gym and learning enough jiu-jitsu moves and principles that I was able to control my emotions and my nervous system during that experience. Why wouldn't we do the same thing with real life stuff as well? So keep going to the emotional gym. You can be hurt and regulated at the same time. If this episode resonated with you or was impactful, it would be awesome if you could share it with a friend, family member, colleague, coworker, peer, supervisor, team member, because it might impact them also. Your emotional health fitness is worth going through the emotional discomfort to become the best version that God's called you to become. You're worth it.